Hey y'all, and welcome back to another great episode of In the Stars. I am your host, Eli Gomez, creator and founder of Starseek Astrology. I created Starseek Astrology originally to give good quality astrology services that are grounded in reason, reality, and ethics. I'm going to share with y'all a little story here as to its inception. For those of you who may not have known, Lori Rivers offered me a one-on-one mentorship back in July of last year because she saw great potential in me as a student of hers. Now, she and I both knew that there could potentially be some controversy that comes from this because I was also actively a part of astrology trios and their groups and Patreons as well, and they had their own situations that were happening that I was not exactly in the know of just yet. But I knew enough to know that there was something there. What I did not know was the details or reasons of the trio's comeuppance at the time, for I was still actively supporting them in their communities. I just didn't know. What I did know is that me starting my professional astrology career would serve as a test. If I began to be victim of aggressive or passive-aggressive attacks by the trio, then I would know where I stand. If nothing changed given the news that I was starting my own astrology practice, then I would also know where I stand. Unfortunately, the first scenario was what happened. I began to be bullied passive-aggressively out of their community, a community with people who I cared about and who supported me in lots of different ways. I would notice that they would begin liking everyone else's comments and messages but mine, asking how everyone was doing but me, and things of that nature. I had a final straw back in January of this year, which was when I decided to stop all of my support of the trio altogether. The reasoning was a podcast episode one of them had released, outright slandering another astrologer online for making predictions and energy forecasts when they themselves would do the same in their Patreons. That was when I decided to end my Patreon memberships with the three of them, because this was not something I was willing to support. Why are we tearing others down instead of building people up? And as a person who does give a lot of criticism online, I will never make targeted personal attacks like this trio was doing. So I left, and immediately got blocked by all three of them on Patreon, even though my payment had just gone through for the following month the day before. Let's just say I never saw that $20 again. And that's not what matters. If they were truly ethical, like they marketed themselves to be, they would have refunded. Not only did they block and not refund me, they also blocked and didn't refund my mom, who was actually still functional at the time. I was then blocked on every single social media platform by them, as if I was the bad guy who offended them. For those of you who may have tuned into Sassy Seer's podcast episode with Lori Rivers and me and Matilda earlier in January of this year, you may remember the topic of discussion that there were some people who left one-star reviews on In the Stars. That would have been the trio. That would have also been the time that all this happened. And I want to mention, these were grown-ass women who were trying to bully a 19-year-old. Actually 18 at the time. This was when information revealed itself to me about the trio's comeuppance. Apparently, I was only one of the slew of people who were targeted by them, and I actually was not even the worst of what they had done. I'm sharing this story to share my experience with unethical readers online. I have had my chart talked about in private Discord servers. I've had direct passive-aggressive and outright aggressive attacks made to me. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It was bullying. Unfortunately, this is a reality to a lot of people who seek out metaphysical services. I recently made a TikTok explaining how difficult it is to find a reader who is not only experienced and trained, but also ethical and genuine. And I can tell you with my whole heart and soul that every single person who I bring on to In the Stars, whether it be an expert, a reader, a client, a friend of mine, etc., I have personally had marvelous experiences with either working or corresponding with them. I had Tracy St. Croix on a couple weeks ago. She's an astounding paranormal investigator who has a show coming out, by the way. I had on my mentor Lori Rivers last week, who was like a second mother to me. She's been the best astrology mentor and teacher that I could have ever asked for. And then this week, I have on medium Matilda. I met Matilda through Lori Rivers, actually, and have nothing but positive correspondences with her. Matilda is someone who I can assure you knows her stuff. She's not only well experienced and well trained, but she's also one of the sweetest and most hilarious people I have ever had the honor to meet. I'm thrilled to be able to have her on In the Stars this week and share just an introduction to the amazing conversations that we have. With that being said, let's get right on with the show, and here's Medium Matilda. We're back at it with the real medium Matilda this time. So, welcome to the show. This is your first time. I'm really excited to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
So, you're a psychic medium. I'm sure that you get a lot of people who are like, oh, how did you get into that? So, kind of tell us a little bit of the story that led you into the world of being a medium.
It's not very exciting. I have always been able to do this. So, as with many children, I was very open to spirit when I was younger. I always believe that you can train to be a psychic, but you are born to be a medium. Okay? You can train to do it, but every child has that ability up until about the ages of 7 and 8, until our brain becomes full of what are we having for dinner, who are we going to play with, we start going to school. So we're always open to it, and I was especially open to it. Did I know what was going on? Did I? No. I had no idea. I come from a very long line of Romany gypsies, and if you know anything about Romany gypsies, they're the old-fashioned ones with the Vargos. My grandparents were the first settled in homes in the United Kingdom, where they tried to round them up and make them settle. And it was always, my mum could predict anything. She could say something and it would happen the next day. And it was just always part of my life, but it was never talked about. It was never like, this is a special ability, you can work on it, it was just part of our lives. And as a child, I too could predict something and it would happen. Didn't think much about it. When I got into my 20s, I started exploring it a bit more, going to see psychic mediums, that sort of thing, realizing, one of the first mediums I spoke to said, need to give you a crystal ball, you need to be working with spirit. Did I take her advice? No, I didn't. She turned out to be my mentor for many, many years. But it just grew over time. I started doing it professionally about 20 years ago with the help of a mentor, and really working on my connection with spirit, really working on that ability to give evidence to people when their loved ones step forward. When my mother passed away, which is 14 years ago now, the ability just tripled. It was like waking up one day and the lights were on, the colours were bright, the rainbows were out, and I had to deal with that as well. So it took a lot more patience on my part. But I've always known I didn't really do it professionally until I was in my 30s. But there's a reason for that. I always think that you have to live a life. And spirit, when I'm working as a medium, will use frames of reference from my life. And without my life, I wouldn't be able to give the information that I do.
Every psychic medium whom I have communicated with on my life's journey, which actually, believe it or not, has been quite a few, because I've just, eighth house, sun, and moon here. I just somehow or another, no matter where I go, I encounter some of those people, those people, the woo-woo, or maybe woo-woo. It depends, because there's always going to be the ones who are going to be very performative or very aesthetic, and then there's also going to be the ones that are going to be very grounded and down to earth, like you and Tracy and some others that I have communicated with along the way. And those are the people I surround myself with. I always like to be around the people who are grounded in reality, who aren't like twin flames, everything, and all of that.
Started on that. There is too much performative. You've put it into great words there. There are many performative mediums. They're doing it for entertainment. They're doing it for the shock factor. Many are not practiced, they're not mentored, they're not trained, and they don't know how to give real evidence. And if you don't have that really good connection with spirit and the loved ones that step forward, you cannot give good evidence.
That's a great point. And I really like that you mentioned having a mentor because I know that's what my audience knows. That's how Lori is with me. Like, she's my mentor. And then I know, like you were saying before, you have your mentors as well. So, kind of like, what is the purpose of a mentor when being a professional reader of any kind? Like, or at least for you, what is the significance of having a mentor and why is it so crucial to have that kind of relationship with another professional to kind of help aid you along your professional journey as well?
I think it's great that you have Laurie as a mentor and you found somebody that gels with you. It's not just having a mentor is important, it's having the right mentor for you that is going to call you out on your shit. I know this is your podcast, I can't swear, sorry.
You can curse however much you want.
I'm Australian, okay? It comes naturally. But you need somebody that's really going to ground you, tell you as it is. No, none of this performative, none of this storytelling. Teaching you how to pull out the bits of information that you need from the spirits that you connect with and your guides, because your guides are always there, and that's the purpose of a mentor. They really have to help get the best out of you. So finding a mentor that doesn't have competition with you or want competition with you. There is no competition in spirituality. The people that are meant to read with you will read with you, and they will find you. They will be guided to you. I'm not on social media to make money. I can't be in the creator fund. There is no purpose other than to educate. So finding those people that align with your values and will beat the values into you is really crucial. Ethical training. You may be an amazing medium, an amazing intuitive, but if you don't have ethical values and don't stand by your values or align with your actions, then you're no good to anybody.
Yeah, that's something that Lori's definitely hammered into me, and I know that you do a very great job of explaining that on your social media platforms as well, as really kind of not barging through people's trauma and instead
So
treating with
important.
compassion and respect that people deserve just by being alive on Earth.
We're here to educate, we're not here to pull down. And that is, it's really crucial that every part of our interaction with the public, whether it is they have a reading with us, whether it is they're part of one of my Zoom evidential groups, whether they're part of one of my workshops on my social media, educating with compassion. Yeah, I call people out, but I don't put up with fools. I think it's really important because we are all conditioned to believe a certain way about ourselves, whether that is conditioning through our upbringing, our parents, our church, our school. We are conditioned. My job is to let people question that without forcing it upon them.
That's actually a really great way of putting it. I never actually thought about it that way. So, you were mentioning kind of how you are kind of serving as, I don't know. It sounds like to me you're kind of a lighthouse. You're someone who's kind of like, hey, you know, this is over here, kind of showing people the different directions around them in the
Mm-hmm.
middle of the night when you can't see anything. But then also kind of they're still steering their own ship as well. You're just kind of
Absolutely.
there
Because
illuminating the way.
yeah, people need to make up their own mind. And when people do go through, and a lot of people go through a spiritual awakening, it's painful because we're letting go of past conditioning, past belief systems. We're opening up to things that can run parallel with those. We're not overtaking them. And
Yes, of course.
I teach mediumship, or the idea of mediumship, and what I do, and that the afterlife is real, that there is a continuation of consciousness. I teach it because it's been my life. I know no different.
I just gotta say, like, that's really something that is truly amazing too. That's something that you've just kind of like you're probably I bet one of the things that you thought of your whole life is like, wait, y'all can't do that?
Yeah.
Y'all can't do that?
The words "you're strange" or "you're too much" or whatever still came out of, I grew up in a Romani and Irish Catholic family. My father wants no part of this. He does not, he's very Catholic. His words are, "I'm answerable to God and your mother," and not necessarily in that order. So,
Yeah, that's kind of hilarious, but strikingly true
it
in a
is.
lot of
Yeah,
households too. Yeah.
it is, absolutely.
You were kind of talking about earlier how, like you were saying before, that you're kind of helping people show options and pathways in life. So, with that being said, what's kind of the difference between religion, per se, that a lot of people seek answers from, and maybe spirituality? Like, what, in your experience, really kind of differentiates the two into two distinct subjects?
There's a lot of parts of religion that are man made. The rituals within the Catholic Church, the Bible, many parts of religion are man made rules. They're not part of something that is, whereas spirituality is. We'll talk about the man made part of spirituality in a second, but I think religion has its own place for everybody. Okay, there are hundreds of different religions, as there are hundreds of different languages. You choose the one that suits you, whether that be Catholicism, whether it be Christianity, whether it be Judaism. It's what suits you and sings to your heart and to your soul. But I think that the fact that I have been able to prove for many, many years that the afterlife exists and the continuation of consciousness exists, I think that they can run parallel. We don't have to choose one or the other, but we also don't have to be controlled the way that many religions control people. Religion to me feels more about control. Spirituality feels more about your choice, your pathway.
That's a great answer. And as a person, I don't know if you could tell, I collect religious texts and I also collect hymn books
I
and
love
all of
it.
the things. And as a person who has taken quite a few religious studies courses at university so far, I think the definition I've come to is that religion is the structure for spirituality.
Well, spirituality, it depends on the religion, and it depends on, because many religions believe many different things about the afterlife. They don't necessarily believe in things like reincarnation or the continuation of consciousness. But I don't think that we can have one without the other.
Oh, exactly. 100%.
Spirituality. I would have studied theology had I had my time again. I came very close to being a nun at one point. Probably closer now to being a nun than I was in those days. But I feel there is you are going to be drawn to what suits you. There is very much a soul movement in the direction that you are pulled, and I don't think that you should give up on religion just because you believe in spirituality, and I don't think you should give up on spirituality just because you believe in religion. But each language should speak to you individually, and you choose the one that suits your life, aligns with your values.
All right, I'm going to pause the episode real quick and I'm going to ask a question of all of you. At least all of you who may not have ever had an astrology reading before. Have you ever wondered like what it can do for you? Like what is an astrology reading even like? Maybe you're still trying to figure out whether astrology is something that you're interested in or is it something that can even really help you out? Well, I have good news for you. I have the Starseek Astrology semi-annual sale going on right now at starseekastrology.com. And you can book readings and services with me at discounted rates open to the public. That's right, it's open to the public for a limited time only until June 30th. Closes midnight at Central Standard Time, by the way. And I have these readings and services on sale for one of two reasons. One is because I wanted to show you all what it's like being a patron all the time. Like, what's the little benefits that you get? This is a little tester. And then I also wanted to extend the opportunity to give readings and services to those of you who may still be trying to figure out if astrology is really something that you're interested in, or you're still trying to figure out what it can even do for you, and you just may not be feeling like paying all that much money for it. That's kind of what this is. It's a little tester time period, where you can kind of not only figure out what's going on, but also how it can benefit you and what astrology really is and how it can be for you on a personal level. Definitely go check out starseekastrology.com. I have lots of different readings and services on there where you can book. So definitely go check that out if you are interested. With that being said, let's go and get right back with the episode. Also, part of being a medium is you probably get a lot of questions about the difference between psychic and medium. Or maybe people just call you a psychic or they just call you a medium. So, what is your title? Or, like, what do you call yourself? And then, what's the difference between psychic and mediumship?
I call myself a medium. Okay, so all mediums are psychic. Not all psychics are mediums. I get very, very frustrated by people giving themselves the moniker of medium and they have no ability to speak to the dead or bring through loved ones. They don't know how to give evidence. They haven't developed that. But they could be really good intuitives or really good psychics. And they really take that away. So as a medium, my ability is to connect people with the loved ones that have passed, those that have already transitioned to the afterlife. So I'm talking about saying your grandma's around, she's giving me a capital E, is her name Elizabeth, Eliza, she's giving me the June month, she had problems with her feet, and she's talking about when she used to take you to a certain place, like specific details. That's the connection that I have with the afterlife. That's the connection that I've been able to work with. We're called evidential mediums. And psychics are people that can give spiritual advice, connect to your guides, help you connect with your guides, and can make predictions. Not everyone can make predictions, but as a psychic, you should be able to.
So you mentioned the term guide a lot. So for people who may not be in the realm of spirituality, or maybe this is their first time and they're listening to this for the first time and they're like, what the hell is a guide? Is that like some stranger that I meet on the side of the street and they help me through spirituality? Or like is it that little gnome that my grandmother gave me when I was 3 to put in the backyard? Like what is a guide? And how would you say that people, just anybody, not someone who may even be an expert, like it could just be a layperson, how can anyone connect with their guides?
Funny enough, I have a workshop on that coming up. Like to give a plug when I can. Everyone can connect with their guides. They just have to be really open to it. When we get out of our head and that egoic part of our brain, with the attached to an outcome, we have to feel what our guides are trying to give us. They will give us signs along the way. That can be an emotion. That can be putting something in your way. It's up to you whether you take it when you ask them for guidance. Everyone has guides. Our guides are people from many, many, many generations back, not necessarily even related to us, but they are assigned to us at birth and they are there to push us in the direction that we want and help us on our path. If we learn to sit in the stillness, we will hear them.
That is a very great point, too, because a lot of people might try and find their guides in the running around of doing life. They're doing A over here and B over here, and they're just running back and forth, and they expect, like, why am I not hearing anything? And so that's another great point to mention as well, is that you can't expect your guides to hammer information into you and beat you with a hammer. That's not how that works.
One of the biggest questions I ever get asked, and it's always in the last 2 minutes of a reading, so you've done your 45 minutes, and they'll go, who are my guides and how do I connect with them? If you are attached to who they are, then you're going to lose the point. It's about building that connection with them. They are not going to jump in front of you, tap dance, and give you the answers. They are going to communicate with you in symbols and messages and sublimities and that knowing. But when you are running around everywhere and you know, I want it, I want it, I want it, and you're not willing to put the work in to sit in the silence and listen to and feel, that's when you're going to miss out.
And a lot of times, I've developed my relationships with my guides in a very particular way. Through my experience, I have made kind of a almost like a communication agreement with my guides, like saying, "Hey,
Yep,
if you need me, communicate to me through these ways. These are the ways that I will see it, and it will be in my face to me because I see
absolutely.
that all."
Hmm.
And so that way, and it can't just be something like, "Oh, I'm gonna see a white feather," because we see white feathers every day, like
The
it
white
needs to
feather and the butterfly.
be, yeah, like those, like people see those every day. Like you need to be something that's very unique, like a blue duck.
You can set your guide's tasks. Show me a penguin. And you want my attention, show me a penguin. You'll get that. You will get your penguin.
Yeah, and it'll be in the most crazy ways. Like I remember
Hmm.
I was on a cruise boat. I guess this was either last year or 2 years ago, and because I went on two in between that period, and I was like, hey, there was this situation I was dealing with, and I'm like, if if this is kind of what's going on, if I am seeing the full picture and this is what I'm seeing, validate to me by showing me a glowing yellow duck. And it has to be, and I said glowing. And lo and behold, in one of the little mailboxes in one of the rooms was a glow in the dark yellow rubber duck.
Perfect.
And I'm like,
Perfect.
well, that
And when
that
you,
was
yeah,
yeah.
when you take the time, as with every relationship, just because you want it doesn't mean it is. When you put the effort and the energy into it, you will build that.
Oh, 100%. And I also think it's important to note too that it's not something that is going to be accomplished by using force, by trying to make it a your way or the highway kind of situation.
Hmm.
Because at the end of the day, your guides also have agency. They also have the ability to choose
Absolutely.
and make choices. So being able to communicate with them just like you would anybody else.
Yeah.
It's would you go over to your friend's house and tell them how to rearrange their furniture and do all the things? You probably wouldn't do that because that's not exactly the respectful thing to do. But you would also maybe communicate with your guides instead of saying like, "Hey, do this. Hey, do that. Hey, do this." It's because it's a two-way street too. You also have to do some of the work too. So you can't
But
if you don't just get off scot-free.
no, and people think that their guides are going to give them the answers and they're going to make everything better for them. Your guides want you to do the work. If you're not willing to do the work, then yeah, they have agency and they're going to repeat what they want you to know.
Oh yeah, I remember back when I was still very, very new into spirituality. I was actually still in the church and I was experimenting with it. So this would probably been around early 2022. I was playing around with pendulums, and anyone who has
Hmm.
followed me for a while knows how I feel about pendulums. Um, I would say that I noticed that because I was wanting outcomes so bad, that was reflected in the
Hmm.
answers I was going to get through the pendulum because my subconscious mind was making it happen.
Yep,
And part of
absolutely.
it was because I doubted my ability to connect with my guides through any way other than something tangible because I was so
Hmm.
used to if I couldn't see it, touch it, feel it, it wasn't real. That was
Hmm.
kind of the mindset I was coming at from this. And so it's really cool too. It's cool, but it's unfortunately cool that you can see even your own subconscious bias through physical tools, even with
Yes.
connecting with your guides when you're trying to force it too much. So that's why it's so important, like you were saying, to kind of make sure that you're calm and you're in the right headspace to be able to
Hmm.
communicate. So that way you're not trying to force anything to happen. in
Yeah,
your
because
way.
but that's when your ego gets in the way, and you have to realize that your own wants and your subconscious is getting in the way of what is, and your guides aren't going to make it happen just because you want it. They're not there to say, so many people will say, but I've asked my guides for a new job, but have you looked for a new job?
Right?
None of the, yeah. So this being a psychic doesn't come with all the answers. It comes with the ability to teach people how to find the answers.
And I think I can say the same thing for astrology as well.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I've noticed that like for me, like when I'm making predictions, like I'm really experimenting with predictions with my close group of people because I haven't actually like released too many into the public. I've done a couple on TikTok, just a little, just to
Mm-hmm.
experiment with it, but I really have a fun project that's going to be released probably later in July, and it's going to be one that's going to be I'm going to be pulling together different cities in the American South, and I'm going to do like a whole project on it, and it's
Oh,
going to be really
cool.
cool. I'm really
I look
excited for
forward
it
to
because
hearing
that's
about that.
yeah, because that's my main audience is American South.
I have I have a global audience, but I would say, given the last 12 months, I've had a lot of uptake of people in the South.
Yeah, that's actually really fascinating too. It's the Bible Belt. But yeah, so I
Exactly.
when I'm sitting here and I'm journaling, I'm writing down or making notes of like, ooh, this day is going to be really interesting for this particular city. I think we could see something very interesting happen. And I would just go through and think, well, given this is the energy, what are the different
Mm-hmm.
possibilities within that energy? Because people still at the
Very
end of the
good.
day can choose,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yes.
and like you were saying before, you can't your guides can't
No.
force you to do anything, and you can't
No.
force your guides to do anything because they're two different agents. But astrology is very similar too. Like you can't just the planets don't force anything to happen on Earth. It is reflective of the energy of the collective. And so you still have choice. You can either mitigate a lot of the really heavy issues, or you can actively try and work to better the circumstances. And that's how creative energy works. And so I'm really excited that you brought that up because it kind of let me plug that little
No,
thing in
that's
there
great.
too.
I'm going to plug that my Are You Listening course is on Sunday the 29th, I think, in Australian time, and it's on my website, and it's all about learning to listen to your guides.
All right, y'all, let's go and do some patron shout outs. Without patrons, I don't get paid for doing this podcast. And so I didn't know if you guys knew this, but it takes me at least 7 hours a week doing a podcast episode. That's right. That's 7 hours a week that I could be working my day job. That's 7 hours a week that I could be doing readings and services. But I really love podcasting. And it's really important that people are supporting because this is kind of what's helping me be able to share all this really good information out there on astrology and kind of even rectify some of the wrongs that a lot of unethical astrologers may have done, or unethical readers, or really trying to help clear the air as to what real astrology is and what's actually pop astrology. So with that being said, let me go ahead and give all of my patrons a wonderful shout out. We got Lori, Jen, Nicole, Glenn, Matilda, Nicole, Issy, Loremaster 3000, Denise, Rose Moon, Kim, and Kirsten. Thank you all so much for supporting. I am extremely grateful for you all's support, and I hope that you all know that I do not take y'all's support for granted, and that is why I want to give every single patron a shout out every week here on the In the Stars podcast. So with that being said, let's go and get right back to the episode because we got more coming up with Media Matilda.
The events that I do with Laurie are so good because she does the timing through astrology. I may say, look, I'm feeling something in this area of the world, and she'll pull up the chart and go through the days and go, this day, look out for this. That could, and I'll just say, okay, it could be a fire, it could be an earthquake, and we'll use the astrology and my images and my channeling together, and we've come up with some really bang on predictions during those events.
Yeah, I've been to a few of those, and I gotta say, like, they're absolutely fantastic. If um, any of y'all listening to this right now, if y'all haven't done one of Matilda and Lori C's things, like, oh my goodness, like those are fantastic. Everyone should have that experience at least once, just to experience it. And I will say, it really does help people see kind of the prediction making process, because I don't think a
Yeah.
lot of people really see that side, because all people see from us is, oh, the facade that we put on social media, which I say facade
Mhm.
lightly, just like, you know what I mean, like the filtered content that
Yeah,
we make through social
but
media.
that's what worries me about some of the social media psychics, because they go, I've got my notebook here and it's got 75 pages and I got it from a channeling session. If you've got 75 pages from a channeling session, you would not be able to stand upright. You've seen me at the end of those events when it's 3 or 4 hours. I crawl out of them because it's you're using up and burning so much energy, and that's really difficult. So anyone that comes on social media and says, oh, I've just channeled this and they're all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, I'm like, no, you haven't.
Yeah.
You've made that up.
This book right here, this book right here, Seth Speaks, is
Uh-huh.
426 pages of channeled content. This was done over the course of years.
Right.
Years. So if people say that they did that in one session, immediate red flag.
And, I will, and people go, we want predictions for this month. We want predictions. I am a working medium who does 3 to 3-ish readings 3 days a week. Okay? Because of the energy that I use, and I am mainly a medium, not a psychic, so people pay a considerable amount of money to have a mediumship sitting with me. So I do those. I have a Patreon that I upkeep. I have 2 podcasts that I have. And if I am making time to make predictions, and you are going to come along and be an arsehole about the predictions, or then go, can you tell me about my little town in the middle of nowhere? And I'm like, do you know how exhausted I am just by pulling up 10 predictions to put on social media for you? Show a bit of fucking gratitude. That's how I feel. And I know that's wrong. And I know I get cranky with people. But I'm so exhausted after channeling that I don't want to engage with people, and I don't want to be asked for more, because, and I don't get specifics. These people that come on and say, they've told me on the 8th of July that this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and this is going to... Bullshit. Sorry. Just
Yeah.
bullshit.
And I also think that it's very important that you said that, because as my patrons know, they know about kind of like what's going on in my life as of current, and the effects that spiritual psychosis has had on my life specifically. And I did a couple of patron podcast episodes about it, as well as the dangers of spiritual
Yeah.
psychosis. And um, my mom, unfortunately, has fallen victim to that. And it's not easy. I mean, obviously, it's progressed over time, but one of the biggest red flags that I saw, and or at least kind of like an arrow pointer being like, this kind of is spiritual psychosis right here, ding, 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 big, loud, and clear, was when she said, I got through my pendulum that your dad is going to die at 3:29 p.m. on January 27th. And I said, ma'am, Miss Mama, ma'am, and you said that so wholeheartedly. That's in 3 days. What are you gonna do when that doesn't happen?
But are you going to make it happen, would be my first question. What
Well,
do you have planned? That would have
yeah,
worried me.
exactly,
That would have worried me a
exactly.
little bit.
Well, when it came to pass, and I said, so how do you feel about that? Well, now the timeline shifted, and now it's gonna be this day. I'm like, this sounds a lot like that whole 5D scam that I hear people talk about on social media. Like when something doesn't happen, you shift the day. But the problem is, like, with that is when people get so attached, they're not looking into themselves as to why they want that to happen to begin with.
Yeah, look, I mean, there's certain things that people are attached to, and we know why they are attached to it. Let's not lie about that. There are certain things that are going on in politics at the moment, and everyone's going when. We Last year was a really difficult year because Saturn was clouding everything psychically. I don't know whether you know that, when we were trying to look at the election, I was being shown there was no election. Turns out there wasn't, but do you know what I mean? I was just being shown it wasn't going to happen. And I will not go on to social media and give a date as to when something ends, because people are holding on to it so tightly. But perhaps we all need to let go of the when and know, and just, there's a lot of faith that we need to hold on to with spirituality. We have to have faith in the unknown, the unseen, and that can be difficult for some people.
Yeah, I also think it's a lot of people really like to hold on to the when is this going to happen? When is this going to happen? When am I going to feel safe? When am I going to not have to do XYZ and all the things? Instead of kind of thinking, okay, well, these are the circumstances. What can I do right now to make the most of what I got
Yeah.
with me right now? They're always so
Mm-hmm.
focused on when is something going to happen, something outside of their control. And I really want to applaud you real quick for really taking on to social media and trying to help show people, hey, you still have choice. The Dawn's not holding you in your house hostage, holding your hands behind your back, not making you do anything.
Yeah.
And you still can go outside, go grocery shopping, I hope, and then also be able to, I mean, not
Yeah.
everyone can, not everyone can, I know, but if I'm assuming that if you're probably 99% of the listeners and any of our audience, you're very capable of still making decisions for yourself. And how you're kind of going on to social media and kind of help showing people, like, saying, hey, we got to make the most of the circumstances right now, because even if he wasn't in office, we would still be seeing the same kind of crap that we're seeing now. Like,
But
it's really just a change of the facade.
it's empowering, and I've worked really hard. I'm so proud of my Patreons, because a lot of the work that I've done with my Patreons is empowering them, putting your energy into what you can control. If you feel like you need to be of service locally to those that need it, and knowing that this will end. But unless you are a marginalized community member and you are immediately at risk, and you are sat there clutching your pearls, and you have privilege, you are not helping anyone. If you have no threat to your immediate safety, and you are sat there clutching your pearls going, I can't cope, I'm so traumatized. And then you are literally putting everyone around you in danger, because if you are panicking, you bring danger to you. Use that energy to help people that are at risk.
Yeah. And actually, me and Lori talked about it on the podcast last week. And we were talking about how panic is just a misuse of potential energy,
Absolutely.
because you can do so much with the energy that you are able to exert from your body. And by using that to panic is kind of stifling all of the really cool creative things that you can do with energy. Like
Yeah,
helping
yeah.
people, making a quilt, knitting, going outside talking to your neighbors, all of those cool
Go and help a
networking
food
things.
bank. Do something. I said community was going to be important this year. I said that my two words for the beginning of this year were community and agility, and they're coming into play. But I went on to my Patreon live. What morning was it? It was Sunday morning, Saturday night, your time, when Trump decided to set the fireworks off, and I was talking to people, and everyone was panicking. I'm so scared. And I just said, use what you have power over. Use your agency to do something for yourself or locally. Go and donate to a food bank. Go and donate to a pet shelter. Grow your veggies. Do your knitting. Do something that you have the privilege of doing, and stop panicking. And do you know what? The posts that I had after that of people saying, I'm using my energy to do this, I'm using it to do that, and it was really good.
The best things that readers get feedback for is like,
Yeah.
hey, you know, after our reading or after my reading with, XYZ, and I was able to do this that I wouldn't have been able to do if I didn't get the reading. Or, hey, thank you for showing me XYZ. I wouldn't have been able to see this if you weren't to have shown me. Like those are the kinds of things that readers love to see, at least us ethical ones, us real ones. Like we like to be
Yeah,
able to
I love it
see.
when I get
Yeah,
feedback that, I was able to do. A lot of my readings are kicks up the bum from your guides. That's what a lot of my readings are. They're going to pull out that thing that's holding you back, or you're holding yourself back, that subconscious information that you don't realize is standing in your way, and hitting you over the head with it. I promise I am nice in my readings. I am kind in my readings, I promise. But a lot of my psychic readings and guidance readings are around that. We get projections or predictions during the reading, but that's not the stuff you want to work with. If you are going to have a reading with me and you are going to listen to just the predictions and then phone me in 6 months later and say, but I still haven't got a new job, all right, but did you listen to what your guides say? And they go, no. Why are you wasting money to book another reading?
exactly. So kind of shifting gears from kind of talking about predictions and things. When people always come on my podcast, especially the experts, because I'm a Capricorn Venus. I like to bring the people who know a thing or two about a thing or two.
Why have you got me on then?
Because you know a thing or two about a thing or two. Don't undersell yourself. Okay, so uh, I always ask people who are the experts on here, how can people find ethical readers online? Because that is something that is so difficult, especially in a field of spirituality that people can very easily manipulate other people with because it's a huge faith aspect. And there's a lot of
Yeah.
misinformation about what true psychic phenomena is or what true mediumship is and astrology and all the things. So, like last week, I asked Lori, how can people find good, ethical, real astrologers? Now I'm going to ask you, how can people find real, ethical, and good mediums?
Pay attention to if you're watching them online, okay, and they do things like live readings. Watch what evidence they give. Okay, so it's really about the evidence to prove that connection. When you are booking a mediumship reading, don't give any information. Your name, your telephone number. You don't even need to give that if you're having one by Zoom. But that's all they need. They don't want to know who you want to connect with. They don't want to know the name of the person. When you have a mediumship reading, they should prove their connection to you. Don't give them anything.
What about the readers who ask for all your social media accounts, your driver's license number, and all of that?
No, don't be using those. There is one I think you're referring to who even asks for a photograph of the person that has passed. We don't want to be doing any of that. Okay, you don't need to provide anything. Never ever book a reading using social media, messenger, through Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is, because people will use that to gain information from you.
Oh,
So you
100%.
So yeah, I once booked a reading with somebody and I used Facebook to book it, and I thought this guy was ethical, and then he started recounting names of my sister-in-laws because they had the same surname as me. So yeah, I would never book anything through social media. Never, if you ever get a TikTok message off of me, it's not me. I don't even follow people on TikTok. There's a very limited amount of people that I follow on TikTok, purely because I like to keep them safe. and that is really important. Um, Look at people's reviews, study them right back, look at the detail they give. And if they're doing live readings on TikTok, don't pay $10 for a yes no answer because there is no such thing as a yes no answer.
I recently made a TikTok about that on
Oh,
how
did
a
you?
lot of times, yeah, I think it's one that honestly any ethical reader should at least make millions of TikToks on because that is one of my biggest pet peeves is people are like, but is it a yes or no? You told me the energy, but is it a yes or no? And I'm like, you choose whether it's a yes or a no. You choose. What about you choose do you not understand? I'm telling you the circumstances, but you're trying to figure out is it a yes or no to the circumstances? Like, that doesn't make any sense. But
I
a lot of times people like to limit spirituality to yes and no, and that's
don't
absolute
limit.
crap.
Do not limit yourself to what you think you are hearing. Be open to how things are going to play out. It's like manifesting. We can sit there and manifest a brand new car. I want a brand new car, okay? You're driving a $500 jalopy. How are you going to get from that brand new car, that old car, to a jalopy? Well, opportunities are going to be put in your way. You may upgrade, or you may get a job that's going to get you the brand new car, or you've got to be open to the opportunities put in your way. Take the opportunities towards the eventual manifestation. When you're holding on to things really tightly, it plays with the energy. What goes up must come down, as above so below. That is how it is. But if you are really want an ethical medium, an ethical psychic, understand they're not going to tell you if your boyfriend's coming back, yes or no. They're going to tell you why he's not come back, why he's no good for you, and you then make the decision as to when he phones you for that hookup, if you want it.
That is true. Because good psychic mediums and even good astrologers too, any good metaphysician, I'm just gonna even go ahead and just lay it out
Yeah,
that way.
yeah, any
Any
good
good
medicine.
any good metaphysician's gonna make you question what it is that you actually want. Or do you want that scumbag who cheated on you with your sister and now you're wanting him back? Or are you really wanting the security that his job brought to you?
And also, your guide during a psychic reading should explain to you what about your subconscious, what beliefs that you think about yourself makes you think it's all right to settle for somebody that treats you badly. So there's a whole full circle moment of wake up and empowerment that should always come from a reading.
100%. You want me to tell you something that I saw on social media the other day that
Yeah, go on.
absolutely that made me think of you?
Oh gosh, is it good or bad?
It made me think of you in like not like a oh that sounds just like you, almost a little too much like you. It wasn't that way. It was more so oh shit, I wonder what she would say about that. So
Oh.
there was this live that came on my timeline, or this lady was saying in her little caption of the live, $5 for a yes or no, $10 for pregnancy, yes or no, and then $25 for commitment, yes or no, like relationship, yes or no. So like it was like
Oh,
yes or it was all
so
yes or no's, but she
so
was charging by rank.
yeah, of course she is. But okay, I had something really interesting to say about that. First of all, yes or no questions are a load of rubbish. Second of all, you are purchasing when you do that is a band-aid. The band-aid that's going to go over the sore that you're feeling right now, whether it's a relationship question, a pregnancy question, a commitment question. You are putting a band-aid on the sore that and the pain that is creating, or the instability that that's creating. As a good psychic advisor, we're going to work through that, work out why you want that band-aid on, why you just keep covering up the sore that you're feeling, get you to address your shadow work, get you to the bottom and the core of why, empower you in your next relationship. You will never have to ask those questions of anyone.
20 years from now, is that answer gonna help you?
Mm-hmm.
Are you gonna look back and think, oh, that $25, oh, that was the best $25 I've ever spent.
No, it turns my stomach. The phone line psychics as well that keep you hanging on, and people will, because it's an instant gratification. You have to wait 3 or 4 months to get a reading with me. I'm not a, phone up and instant. And they are overrun by people. Is my boyfriend coming back? Am I going to get that job? That boyfriend that's married, that's also got another, pick me. So let's work on that insecurity and get you deserving. Know what you deserve. That's the other thing. Both in relationships and when you're looking at a psychic medium online, know what you deserve when you are handing your money over. And that should give you a good idea of what sort of reader you go for.
And also research your people, y'all. If you find someone on social media, chances are they probably have a website. They also probably have a podcast. They might have a Patreon. They might have other videos about them on social media. Some of them good, some of them maybe not so good. But it's always good to go look at their website. See how much training that they've had in whatever field of study that they're in. And this goes for anybody in any field of study or any realm of spirituality, just in general. Because do your research. Make sure you're not just trusting them blindly off social media. So maybe those yes, no, maybe people who do those TikTok lives and are like, hey, I can tell you if you're pregnant by a yes or no by the swing of a pendulum as my fan is blowing in the background. And then you can always think to yourself, well, if I come across those people, surely they have a website. Oh, they don't have a website? They only have a TikTok. Oh, red flag.
Yeah. And the thing is that during 2020, so many people lost their job. So many people had a lot of time on their hands. They all went out to the dollar store and bought themselves a set of tarot cards. None of the fuckers know how to use it. Sorry. You can
you're good.
They don't know how to use it. They don't know what they're doing. And they are playing with people's emotions. And you are paying for them to have a good night out on a Friday night because you're giving them your $25.
Yep. And then my favorite, you only accept payments through Venmo and Cash App. Is the people who don't have a website, they don't have a booking software, and all they do is accept payments through Venmo and Cash App, and they're like, hey, send me money and I'll give you a reading. There's no security, at all in any of that. And so it's just so...
But that's
it's so wild.
That's what got me on social media. That's why I went onto social media in the first place. There was some horrific psychics talking about a missing person in the United Kingdom, and they all claim to be psychics. One of them in particular is Australian and should be arrested. And she doesn't have a booking site. She doesn't have a website. She does $25 a reading, $75 a reading, and then she preys on the parents of missing people.
That's terrible.
It's awful. It's absolutely terrible.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times, when people find good ethical readers, it usually almost, at least in my experience, it instantly showed me all of the crap that all of these TikTok astrologers or TikTok mediums who don't have any training whatsoever. See, you had training. There's all of these great people who have trainings, but then there's these people online who go on and they just say all the darndest things and they expect people to listen, and people do listen, and they have absolute jack shit training. They do not have any sort of credentials at all. Then that's all they're doing is just literally lining their pockets.
Yep, absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. So, you ready for that surprise subject that I said I was going to bring to you?
I've been waiting for this. Come on, what's the surprise subject?
When am I going to meet my twin flame?
Well, I think they're waiting down the pub for you right now, and they're going to cause you so much grief, and they're going to make you question your whole... Oh, for fuck's sake. Twin flames don't exist. They are living in the Galactic Federation, waiting for the 5D. And they may appear when there's a timeline jump. Is that a good enough answer for you? Did I get it all in the right?
You forgot to mention that I need to make sure that I have moon water in little cups all the way around my bed. and it has to be charged with quartz and selenite. It has to be quartz and selenite because if it's any other, it's going to make me explode.
What about the red candles that you must engrave their name on?
Oh, and then line them with that oil and then put lots of glitter on it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, yeah. No. No. You're never going to meet your twin flame.
Yeah, because twin flames aren't real. Do you know where they
They
came
are.
from? Like where that ideology came from? I actually don't.
Think
I
it
have
was
no
in
idea. It just decided it wanted to take over the internet.
It came. There's a lot of new age stuff that started in the late 80s, early 90s, I believe. And the twin flame is something that started. It was very commercialized, especially through the new age group of psychics who teach different mentalities, and it's very disempowering. It comes along with those that believe that past lives are what cause us grief, and we should be paying the price for a past life, karma, etc. It's all disempowering to people that work with us or choose to work with us. If you believe that your only love is ever going to be a twin flame, then that then disempowers you to believe that love can be found elsewhere.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
because
So,
you can find love in all kinds of different people, and it's so important to realize that just like how the yes no spirituality we talked about earlier, like with pendulums and in trying to make tarot cards give you a forcibly yes or no answer, which is not that's not how tarot works, but there's people who like to think of that's how that works because they like simple answers. Whenever you limit spirituality to where you can only love romantically one person and truly love them, that you can't truly love anybody else, or that it has to be a yes, it has to be no. Notice how limiting that is. Is it actually helping you? Is it actually
yeah.
liberating you? Or is it narrowing your perception of what possibilities that you can create with your life?
Yeah, it's there's always a blame shifting in a lot of the new age stuff. That's, we're gonna blame the timeline jump. We're gonna blame our past lives. We're gonna blame our twin flame. We're going to blame, you know, whatever, the Galactic Federation. That all of that. We're always shifting blame, where real spirituality is going to empower you and make you feel as if all things are possible and that you deserve to feel confident and empowered. And I teach a lot about self-concept. Your self-concept is the concrete that is at the bottom of who you are. It's often conditioned through certain things growing up. But when you realign your self-concept and empower yourself, you're never limiting yourself.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm all about spirituality for liberation.
100%. That's why I look at religion as having more control or being more controlling, whereas spirituality is very liberating.
And also kind of back to the control factor too. A lot of times people are scared to book with us because they're scared of what we can see and what we're gonna say. So what would you tell people who may be on the fence? Like they've already decided, oh, there's really something to this.
Mm-hmm.
But they're scared to book a reading, even though they kind of want to, but they're scared, and the whole thing that's holding them back is I'm scared what she's gonna say, or what he's gonna say, or what they're gonna say. I'm scared to see what they're gonna think when they see
We
you.
don't think anything. Anything during your reading never ever comes from us. It comes from the modality that we are tuned into. Your guides are never going to give you anything that you don't need to know. And but on the flip side of that, I get people that think I know everything. And when am I going to get married? When are my children going to get married is a big one. And I'm like, oh. when am I going to die? When is my mother going to... We don't get shown that. We get shown what you need to know during the time you have chosen to book that reading. You will also not be told anything that you don't already know when it comes to yourself. You just need a wake-up call to it. You need a refresh on it.
I will say, like, at least on my end, when there's someone who's really scared to book with me, because I encounter that a lot, especially since a lot of my audience is college students.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I prove my accuracy on campus through predictions and also through doing, public things. Like I gave one of my sophomore lectures on on astrology in it, and that, yeah, and it got, they let me go over the time limit because they were just so fascinated by it, and I talked a little bit about that with Lori on the podcast last week. However, I always encounter people who are like, "Oh, you're good. I know you're good. Like I listen to podcasts. You're fantastic. I am just scared to see what you're gonna think about me if I book a reading." And I always tell them, I can't see how I don't see in your chart what you think about your dad naked. I don't see that. That's not how that works. No. I see potential, and I see the potential highest outcome. I see the potential lowest outcome, and I can tell you the most probable outcome. Mm-hmm. And nowhere in that says, "Oh, at 2:36 the other day, you probably saw that really hot guy walking down the street and it made you feel some type of way, and then you realized he was gay, and then you couldn't go out with him." That's not how this works. We don't, that's not how readings work. We show you I figured, like, for you, like, you show them how they can reach the highest potential of their life given the circumstances right now. Kind of like what you were saying with their guide.
Very much around people that are sometimes in a psychic reading, we have to go backwards to go forwards. And to go backwards is that highlighting of that period of time that caused you to stop, that's causing your fear, that's causing you to not reach your full potential. So we analyze that. We look at ways to overcome it through your spirit guides, and then the predictions are going to come in, the projections, what the possibilities are. With mediumship, sometimes people get very scared about that because I am there to prove that your loved ones, once they leave their human existence, their consciousness continues and they are walking beside you every day. That I get a lot of, how do you know that? I'm when you walk in your room and you've got a red hat that belonged to this person and it's on the wall and they're talking about the blue teddy bear and this picture and that picture. I do get a lot of, how do you know that? But that's what the evidence is. That's what a good medium should be able to do.
Do you believe in the 5D?
Yeah, I think about it all the time. Yeah, no.
Yeah, me too. All the time.
That's attached to rapture culture.
Oh, yeah. It's terrible. Yeah.
No, it's the most awful, unspiritual, unchristian anything.
Yeah, I'm like, the 5D really is just repackaged rapture theology, which, honestly, did y'all know, this is just me saying, as a person who has always been fascinated with religion and fascinated with learning all things religious studies. I mean, just look at my bookshelf. But I would say that, I actually wanted to be a pastor at one point in time. So, that's how serious it was. So I was very similar to you in that I was this close to going that route. I don't know. I like this better. I like having a podcast where I can preach and teach.
You still have the... No, I'm not going to give you a prediction because that's just rude.
I mean, I give you permission if you want to.
I just think about your 30s and 40s. Things, not that you will let go of astrology, but you may well use a different pulpit to teach it.
Okay, hint taken. So, Medium Matilda, everyone. Where can people find you? Where can people find all of the wonderful things that you do?
You can find me on mediummatilda.com, which has just about everything on it that you need. I am on TikTok as The Real Medium Matilda. I have a Patreon, Medium Matilda, all my social medias, and I think that's about it. And my podcast, Beyond This, that comes out every Wednesday.
Yes, and Beyond This is actually a very, very good place to learn a lot of deep spiritual topics too. I'm gonna tell you, I remember back before you had the podcast, I'm like, this woman needs a podcast right now. Someone buy her a microphone and get her into the
Thank
recording studio.
you.
Yeah,
That is
and
so sweet.
yeah, I was listening back when it was Beyond the Broomstick and you just had the white and black cover.
I know. I know. Wow. Thank you.
That was two
We
years
have
ago. Yeah.
evolved. We
Yeah.
really evolved this year where I wanted to lose the witchy side of things because Beyond This really encompasses everything from life to death and everything in between. And that, it just sort of really encompassed the movement. It was ready to evolve.
I also think it fits you better. Like it just fits your aura. Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. And I always enjoy tuning in and I definitely recommend everyone go check it out. It's one of the podcasts that I listen to as much as I can. And so you'll never be disappointed with the time that you put in listen to it.
You will always learn something about yourself. Every podcast teaches you, it will always pull out a little nugget.
Oh, of course. Yeah. So definitely go check out all of those links. I will put them in the show notes so that way people can check you out on any of those places. So with that being said, thank you all so much for tuning in today, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.